Bonjour tout le monde, comment ça va? Welcome back to French Action, or welcome to French Action if you're new to this channel. And today we are going to really do something a little bit different. It has nothing to do with CSEC. It's really to discover a very nice place. And this place is Martinique. I've been to Martinique on several occasions, but I thought that it would be better to really get everything from Martinique or about Martinique from two people who actually, who are from Martinique, who were born there, grew up there, and I'm sure they will be the best people to really promote their country. So I'm going to get them to introduce themselves. Ask them to do it in French first because, this presentation will be all in English. So at least we want to hear a little bit of, French from them. Okay? So let's see if my guest is here. Oui, Marie-Noelle.
Bonjour, bonjour.
Bonjour Marie-Noelle, comment ça va?
Ça va bien, toi?
Ça va très bien, merci. Je vais demander à notre invité d'être là aussi. Bonjour Larry, comment ça va?
Bonjour Mylène, ça vous fait?
Ça vous fait. Ok, donc je vais vous demander de vous présenter en français, s'il vous plaît. Alors Marie-Noelle?
Oui, alors donc bonjour à tout le monde déjà. Donc je m'appelle Marie-Noelle. Donc je suis née en Martinique et j'ai grandi en Martinique. Je suis martiniquaise et j'ai eu l'opportunité notamment de voyager et de vivre un peu dans la Caraïbe et en Jamaïque. Donc je connais bien la Jamaïque et je suis ravie d'être avec vous tous cet après-midi.
Merci bien, Marie-Noelle, c'était assez rapide. Hein? Ok, bien alors, Larry.
Bonjour à tous, bonjour Mylène, merci de me recevoir et je suis content de voir mon amie Marie-Noëlle avec nous dans ce live. Donc on est effectivement tous les deux de la Martinique. J'ai grandi, vécu en Martinique jusqu'à mes 19 ans. Ensuite, je suis parti faire une partie de mes études en France et j'ai eu l'opportunité aussi d'étudier à la Jamaïque où je vis actuellement, donc à Kingston. Et c'est pour moi un plaisir de faire découvrir à tes viewers, Mylène, un peu de notre pays, donc de la France aussi dans la Caraïbe. Donc on a tendance à oublier un peu ces îles. Mais voilà, on est caribéens comme les Jamaïcains, mais on parle français et on a une culture qui est aussi très différente, mais en même temps très similaire. Donc, on va pouvoir discuter de tout ça aujourd'hui.
OK. Donc, merci beaucoup. I just would like to say to my audience today that really this is the first episode of others, okay? So I would like you to discover the French-speaking countries. So it's not going to stop at Martinique. We're going to try to go a bit, outside of the Caribbean. So you need to follow me, and to follow me, you need to subscribe so that you know when this is coming up. Because the reality is that my guests are all over the world, and with time difference and their busy schedules, it's very, very difficult to know when they're going to be available. And I only give one day, which is a Sunday at 3 p.m. Jamaican time. So it's a little bit challenging. So I'm working on that, but I'm sure, I hope that you will enjoy this. So I'm going to now let my guests start their presentations. And if you have any questions, please just put them in the chat and I will look at what you have put in the chat and put the questions to them. Enjoy.
All right, so we'll be talking a bit about Martinique. So we have prepared a few pictures from home, Larry and myself, that we would want to show you, to explain a bit about different sites in Martinique and different places that you can visit. We have a few, very interesting, I would say, geographical facts as well as historical facts about Martinique as well. So that we're really looking forward to show you the pictures now, and then we'll be talking a bit about them with Larry.
Great.
So shall I? So the PowerPoint is ready, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we will be discovering Martinique. First of all, this is one very nice beach that we have in Martinique. It's a very long one. It's called Les Salines. I think it's probably the most famous one and probably the favorite one. I don't know what you think about it, Larry. I think
it's my favorite.
there you go. Yes, people really like it a lot. And I think this picture was taken on a Monday morning, because when you go there during the weekend, it's not as empty of visitors. Most of it's crowded because people really love to go there with families, with friends, and so on. So it's a really nice beach and nice vibe as well. Right. So the first site I wanted to show everyone is the Tombolo. So that's in a town in the north of Martinique called Sainte Marie. And when I was talking about interest in geographical fact, this is definitely one of them. So the sand that you see, so what you see at the bottom or at the background of the picture is an islet. It's a very small island. And the sand, the walkway that you see going there is not always open during the year, meaning that most of the time you have to actually get a boat to go to this islet. And from a part of the time of the year, I think it's between April and August, you can actually walk to this islet. So that's very interesting. And as you can see, it's really a pathway in the middle of the sea, because you have the sea on both sides, and at other times the sea just covers everything. So it's really an interesting fact and site to visit. So once you're on the islet, that is the view that you would see. So what is in front, what we're looking at is the town of Sainte Marie, and you can see some walkers on the pathway, going from town to the islet. To visit, and quite regularly. So that's very interesting. Also, this islet is a protected site because you have certain species of birds there.
So it's a bird sanctuary.
There, yes, right. So that's just another view from it, from the Tombolo, from the beach. And this is a map that is located on top of the islet to be able to see other countries. So you can see, for example, that Mexico is that side, or Ireland is over this side, or Nigeria is over this side. So that's also a very interesting way to be able to locate yourself within the world and within Martinique as well. I find it very cool to have this map. This kind of map. So I just wanted to show you the map as well. And last picture, that's when you're on the island as well, on the islet. This is, as you could have seen, there are two parts of it. So the photo was taken from one part, and you look at the other part, and this part is actually the one with the bird sanctuary. And it's also very interesting because there is actually a railroad linking the islet to the land that was used back in the days to carry merchandises. It's no longer working, but actually people are thinking of getting it back on track. That's very interesting. And then we have La Montagne Pelée. I don't know if you want to say a few words on La Montagne Pelée, Larry.
Sure. So this is, I think, the most famous landmark in Martinique. It's the volcano La Montagne Pelée that is located north of the island. So in the city of Saint-Pierre, Mont-Rouge, well, it has many neighboring towns. But one important fact about this volcano is that it's still active. So it's one of the most dangerous types of volcano in the world. And in 1902, there was a huge eruption of this volcano that completely destroyed the city that you can see below, Saint Pierre. And that was a major event in Martinican history because Saint Pierre used to be the capital of Martinique. And after the destruction of it, they moved it much more south in the center of the island in Fort-de-France. But now this volcano is under a lot of monitoring. We don't want to find ourselves in a situation where it erupts again and the population is not aware of it. But it's beautiful scenery at the same time. I mean, look at this picture. You have the Bay of Saint Pierre, which is one of the most beautiful bays also in the Caribbean, and you have this huge volcano overlooking the city.
Yes, and I really like this picture because, as you just mentioned, it's a very high mountain. I think it tops to 1,000 something meters.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
fairly high, and it's very rare that you'll be able to see the top of it actually because it's always within clouds. So I
right.
really like this picture because it's not often that we get to see the summits of this mountain without so many clouds around.
And there's actually a hike that people can do to
Right,
reach out to the summit of it,
right,
the
right.
peak. Yeah, I think it takes how long, Marino? Like 3, 5 hours, something.
I don't know. I think it's very long.
Yeah, I've never
That's
done it. I need to be fit enough to go and to take this hike, but it's a great one to do.
Yeah,
Really.
yes, it's a
Yeah,
very nice one, and I know it's very
right,
long. So that's another picture with another angle of the mountain. As you can see, it's really high, and as you mentioned, so it destroyed the city, but because the
right,
city was made in stones back in the day, we still have a lot of ruins that you can visit in Saint Pierre. Especially there is this huge theater, so it's an amphitheater
mm,
that used to be the center of the cultural life in Saint Pierre back in the day. So we're talking about the early 20th century,
yeah.
right before the eruption. And so you have all those ones that you get to visit. A lot of students and school students and pupils. It's often part of their school programs to go there at least
Right.
once during their program, to visit and know about history. So that's just part of the big stairs going up to this theater. And before we
There's
move
a
forward, yeah,
Yeah, I wanted to say about this eruption. There is a fact that is also very interesting.
right.
There was one survivor. Well, I think there's a legend also about this, but most famously, there was one survivor who was somebody named Siparis, who was actually in jail in Saint Pierre, and the jail was so thick, that it actually survived the eruption. And this man also survived the eruption, and he became very famous back in France because he was a survivor of a volcano eruption. So it's his name was Cyperus. That's also an interesting fact.
Yes, yes, it was very
Mm,
famous, and
yeah,
he was part of an American circus because he was
right.
that famous, as the man who survived this terrible eruption.
Hmm.
As a reminder, I think the eruption caused around 30,000 casualties at the time. So it's a very high number, and you have this one person who was there at the time of the eruption and who survived. So yeah, I think he went actually got to visit the world with this
Yeah.
American circus. Yeah,
Hmm.
so that's very interesting. How you go from being in a jail cell to go
To
and
being
join.
a worldwide star. Yeah.
Yes, yes, right. So moving forward, so we were in the north of Martinique so far. Now we're going in the south, in the city called Le Diamant, and it's as you can imagine, or as you can guess, Diamant is French for diamond, and so this city is very famous for this rock that we call Diamond Rock, literally le rocher du diamant. And same thing, there's a lot of history around this rock. It's very famous. It's very pretty. When you go on a drive in the south and you just go and see this rock coming out of the sea just like that, it's very nice and it's very pretty. And it also had a historical role it also had a role in Martinique history because it's shaped like that, or it got to be shaped like that, like a diamond because of cannons, actually, because it at some point during all the colonial wars surrounding Martinique, I think it was the British used it as somewhere to hide behind so that they wouldn't get cannonballs, they wouldn't receive cannonballs. So when you go and see it closely, actually, you get to see all the impacts of the balls and everything.
Yeah, it was an outpost for the British and the French to fight for, because, well, there was colonial times. And it's very interesting. There was actually a whole life, going on this little rock. There was a hospital. The people actually lived there, So now it's a protected area. It's a bird sanctuary and everything. And for me, it's my favorite site of Martinique. When you see this rock, it's it's just so beautiful. And as Marie-Noelle said, it played also a big part in our history of battles between French and the British. I think even the British at one point recognized it as one of their navy. So I think that was one of the first actual place that was recognized as a navy vessel of the British Army. So it's very interesting to see.
Yes, that's right.
I think for me, when I see the rock, straight away I know it's Martinique, because that's the only place, I think, in the Caribbean you have that rock in the middle like that. So
you can't see from the picture, but this rock is huge.
Yes.
Like right in the middle of the sea, you have this huge rock. Amazing.
Yes, it's amazing, and that I definitely feel like home whenever I'm in a plane. And then, as Jenny just said, I'm in the plane and I see this rock. I know that I'm home because we have we have the diamond.
This is our rock.
Yes. So, and this picture right next to it is a very small house, very colorful. I'm going to show you a bit closer. So you're sitting in the same city of Le Diamant, and this house is called La Maison du Bagnard. So it has it's very small. I don't know, you can't really see it, or maybe when you look at the tree next to it, but it's not I wouldn't say it's not a human size or a regular human size house. It's a miniature. It's a mini house. Very colorful, that was built by this man who actually went to Guyana in the Bagne. If anybody can remind me how you say Bagne in English.
The colony, the penalty colony.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. So that's where people were sent when they committed very serious crimes. They were sent to this prison or this colony over there in French Guyana. So he has been there. I don't think we know exactly what he did to be imprisoned there, to the best of my knowledge at least. And after that, he was released at some point, and he went and was in Martinique, and he built this little house where he was actually living. He decided to put all these colors and everything, and it's a very curious thing to see now when you're in Martinique and you're driving along the Diamant town, because you just see this little house coming out of nowhere, very colorful, and somebody was actually living in there. So actually they did some restoration, so that's why it's still in a fairly good shape now, because we're talking about something that happened during the 20th century. I'll say mid 20th century. So So yes, and that's something that the authorities have been digging up a little bit, to find out the history of this place and who was this person and so on. So that's also very interesting and I'm very curious. I think
So it's
very
like
very.
a museum now, right?
I'm sorry.
Is it like a museum now, or
It's just this. You can go there. It's not even a museum because it's so small. You cannot walk
okay?
in there.
Mm.
Oh,
You have to
oh,
bend your head if you want to go through the door. It's very small,
oh,
but
really?
just
It
there,
looks a bit
yes.
big for me, but
Yeah. The perspective is not great, but if you look at the tree behind it, you really see that it's really
okay.
very
Yeah, it's
That's nice.
tiny.
it's very tiny.
Okay, so he must have been a tiny man then.
We think so. We assume so. To be able to live there, we do assume so. But yeah, that's iconic. Yeah, I like it. Moving forward, yeah, just a few pictures of nature. Because Larry just mentioned the hike that you can do at La Montagne Pelée, but there are a lot of very nice hike sites in Martinique. Many. It's actually, I think it's actually part of what people do as leisure now. On a weekend, on a Sunday morning, on a Saturday morning, you would wake up early and go do a hike in the morning with your friend or family. So I think it's actually part of our cultural activities. And we have this site. So this one in particular is called Trou Cochon. So again, we keep going further down south in Martinique. So right now we're very much in the south. We're in the town called Le Vauclin, and you just have this very nice hike with those very nice sea. You see the nature, you have cactuses, and the one on the left actually it's a very nice bathing area where people go in there and bathe. And it's because on this side of Martinique, it's the coast of the Atlantic Ocean, so the sea is fairly rough, and it's not always possible to get a nice bathe there. But you have this little circle. It's long in the mangrove. So that's Trou Cochon, and you have this little, it's a nice little area where it's protected from waves and where people can bathe. And as you can see, you have all these nice colors, and yeah, it's just very peaceful, I think, and just a very nice sight to do. So yeah, so moving forward, now we have one of my favorite time of the year, which is
Right.
Carnival. Yes. I don't know if you want to say a few words, Larry.
Yes. So now that we've talked a little bit about like landmarks in Martinique, we will go through also some of the most iconic events that happen during the year. So we'll start in February with the celebrations of Carnival. So Carnival in Martinique is for, let me not say something wrong, 4 days. 4 days of Carnival. So it starts on a Sunday, then it goes on to Lundi Gras, Mardi Gras, and Mercredi des Cendres. So what you see now is one of the most famous costume that we have during Carnival in Martinique, which is the Diable Rouge. So we translate that into Red Devil. And Martinique Carnival is very different from the other carnivals that I've seen in the rest of the Caribbean, meaning that it's very colorful, as you can see there. The costumes are very elaborated. And also, a fun fact is that, Carnival is about making fun of society and how social norms are. And in our Martinican Carnival, there's something really funny in which the men dress as women and women dress as men. So it's also about making fun of that also. Mari, maybe you can go to the next picture,
Yes,
please.
yes. Just
Yeah,
before
we'll
going to the
say
next
something.
picture,
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to add something about the other carnivals in the Caribbean, because as you said very rightly, Carnival in Martinique is very different
Yeah.
But I like that we do have some similarities in our costumes and traditions, because a lot of those were coming from the French tradition of Carnival, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And, some of the themes and even some of the costumes, the traditional costumes, sometimes they look alike a little bit. So
Yeah.
you have something quite similar to, so that's what we call Papa Diab in Martinique, and you have something quite similar in Trinidad. You also have, the same inspiration. You have the jab jab in Grenada, and all of this is
Mm-hmm.
coming from the same roots of, you know um
African culture.
right,
Yeah.
as well. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of carnival came from a lot of, it's also part of the Catholic tradition, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of things about, good against evils and so on. So do you have a lot of representations of devils and so on. And I like that we do have this very specific point of similarities with about carnival with other Caribbean countries. So I'm moving
All
forward to the
right.
next slide,
Yeah.
if I can. There we go.
Yeah, so what you see there is what we call gros papier, and this is also very interesting about Martinique Carnival. It's the music is mostly these groups of people playing drums and singing also songs, but it's not like where you have a huge truck, blasting like soca music or dancehall. It's really back to the basics of people playing drums, having the funniest songs ever. And most of these songs, they make fun about what happened during the year in their country. They also took like famous songs of the year and they make a parody of it. So it's a really interesting carnival, and also it's something that everybody can participate in. It's not like you have to pay to be part of a band. You just show up and you jump up in a group in what we call a vide, and it's just a lot of fun. And I think it's a core element of also Martinican culture, so much that during COVID, the authorities tried to like do the carnival in a different setting, like in a stadium, with everybody just walking around the stadium, but it didn't work at all. And people just wanted to be in the streets and express themselves and have fun. And I think, yeah, that's very interesting about Martinique's carnival.
Yeah, yeah, I do agree. And as you said, it's what I really like about it is that it's open to everybody. You don't
Yeah.
have to buy a costume. You can just go grab whatever you have in your house. Actually, at the
Mm-hmm.
at the very beginning of Carnival, so I'm talking about the early 20th century. What you were advised to wear was just old clothes, clothes that you put
Yeah.
under your bed, literally, and that's what you would wear and go and to the streets with. And I really like this, and I think it's also a time where people come together, because we do have, well, there are colors to be wore, out themes according to the day. So that
Right.
on Saturday, everybody just wears a lot of colors. I think this picture was taken on a Sunday, actually, the Dimanche Gras.
Yes,
On
Dimanche
the
Gras.
Monday, right? That's the tradition that Lai was mentioning, is the reverse wedding. So where men dress as bride and women dressed as grooms.
Mm-hmm.
And on the Tuesday, everybody's wearing red, and when Mardi Gras is red and black. And on Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, because that's the end of Carnival and everybody is sad. It's the
Right.
funeral of Carnival. Everybody is wearing white and black. So,
Yeah.
and everybody's just in it together. So you have this whole crowd of, I don't know, 40, 50,000 people just wearing the same colors, singing the same song that are not written anywhere, because these are just popular songs that just are created during Carnival. And then, you jump from one band to another and you learn that song
Right.
just by hearing it. And then you take it to another band and then you learn another song. And, everybody, it's a lot of transmission, a very informal transition and transmission. And it just works like that. And also that was a very good choice of a band. I was actually part of this specific band for a year.
Vagabond.
On the of this band. And yeah, it's a very fun time when just people come together. I really love it too.
Yeah, and every generation is represented, the old,
Right.
the young, the middle. It's really the spirit of communion that happens during Carnival that is really magical.
Yes, most definitely.
And after it's done, we enter into Carême, which is a period of 40 days where you do fasting and you also repent from all the bad things that you've done during Carnival.
Right, that's
So,
Lynn.
yeah. The next event I decided to also talk about is something called 22 May, which is 22nd of May. Why this date is celebrated in Martinique is because that's the date of the abolition of slavery back in the island. So people would, as you can see, do a lot of events relating to their identity, the proudness of being freed from slavery. So they would go with their friends and play drums. Drums is a very popular instrument of music back in Martinique. So this is one example of people gathering together to celebrate the abolition of slavery on the 22nd of May. As you can also see, their colors, red, black, and green. So these are the colors of the the flag, one flag of Martinique that many people associate with. Use these colors, so you will see a lot of that also during those celebrations.
Yeah, and just to add on a few facts on the abolition itself, it's actually fairly interesting because there was a first abolition in the French colonies. That was in 1801, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't want to say it, so it was earlier than that. There was a first abolition, and at the time, French colonies. So there were Martinique, there was Guadeloupe as well. There was also Haiti at the time. Yeah, it was. I think it was right before
Yeah,
the revolution.
Haiti, French Guyana.
Right, right. And I'm not sure, but maybe as well St. Lucia and Dominica, because those islands shifted sides a lot. And so all the colonies that were part of the French colonies at the time, the slavery was abolished there. And the owners of, the slave owners and the plantation owners in Martinique, they heard about the fact that the slavery was going to be abolished by the French government, and of course they did not want that. So what they did is that they decided to
Switch side.
over. Yes, so they
Yeah,
decided that Martinique was under British rule at
right.
the time.
So
So
they quit the French to become British.
right. So at the time, the abolition was
Right.
in all other French colonies except Martinique, because it was no longer French colonies for these few years. And then until the slavery was reinstated again a few years after that, of course, to the dismay of everyone involved. And then we have this final abolition in 1848, that was in Martinique, Guadeloupe, and French Guyana. And it's interesting because we don't have the same dates. It's not like in the former British Caribbean colonies, in Jamaica, in Trinidad, St. Lucia, you have the same date for emancipation, right? The 1st of August. We don't have the same date in Martinique and Guadeloupe. So Martinique is the 22nd of May. Guadeloupe is the 27th of May, and I think Guyana is in June. And
Every French colony has a different date,
right,
basically.
right,
This is
and it's just
very
because it
interesting.
depends on the time the boats reach with the
Yeah,
documents. So that's
yeah,
I find that to be also an interesting fact
right.
about this.
So we're moving forward during the year, and we reach summertime with the biggest event in the island, hands down. It's something called Tour de Yoles. So what you see there is a yawl, which is a traditional boat that Martinican fishermen use to, you know, construct and use to go fishing, right? And back in the days, a few of them, just for the fun of it, decided to do a race, and then it became so popular that yeah, the Martinicans really embraced that, and they structured themselves within an organization, and it became this huge event of race that circles the whole island, right? So not every town of Martinique, because obviously the towns that are close to the beach are able to have a team. So it's a competition between towns, and everybody have like the yawl that they support. One of the most favorite one is this one that you see in front, UFL Chamflor, which is from the town of Robert. And yeah, you have like 12 of them doing this race, and the one that reach first becomes big winner. It's really interesting. I think it's one of the most famous event that we have. I think it even became a UNESCO World recognized tradition. I think it was last year. So you can see that yeah, it's something very unique in Martinique. So the Yola is like a team of 11 people, if I'm not wrong. So you have those rowing, you have the Yol captain, and they have to go through the winds, the sea, the other competitors. So it's really, really a great and interesting event. The population, they follow it either on TV, or they go where the race starts and stops, and they are on the beach having fun and cheering for their crew members.
Yeah, I actually really love this time as well. So it lasts
Mm,
1 week, and it's usually the
yeah,
first
one
week
week.
of August. So it starts usually the first Sunday of August to the second one. And what we don't see on this picture, we would need to have a video, is for you to see how technical it is
Yeah,
for
it's so
crew
difficult.
members to
Mm,
navigate these boats,
yeah,
because the yacht of course has evolved, and what the fishermen use right now is not exactly the same shape. So of course the fishermen now use something that's fairly stable, it's motorized and everything.
yeah,
For the tradition of the race, it's a specific shape that's not so stable, and it depends only on the on wind force, and the wind angle and so on. So you don't have any
yeah.
motors, any engines of any type. And so the men that you can see on the boat, on the large piece of wood, they actually are trying to balance
Balance
the
it,
boat,
yeah,
right?
from
So it's
falling
a lot
off.
of weight and counterweight and
Mm,
counterweight and weight, depending on the waves, the wind. It's very difficult physically for them. It really requires a lot of training, a lot of physical strength, a lot of
yeah,
knowledge of the currents, the winds, depending on where they are, etc. So it's very interesting to see. I really love to see it. And as I said, it's very, very popular. So people
yeah.
usually in the watch it on TV, because of course there's always a live broadcast of it during the whole week, or they go at the arrival time of that day, because there are activities there. They usually have the stage, they have the
Concerts.
right concerts,
Yeah.
games, etc. Waiting up on the wheel, and you have also people on boats. On other
Hmm.
boats, just being on the sea and watching the yacht, and trying to, and as Larry said, cheering for their favorite one. It's a
Yeah.
really, I think it's fairly similar to the carnival, in the sense that it's something that brings people together as well.
Right. You don't see it there in the picture, but everybody who have a private boat also follow these people. So it's a huge amount of people in the sea at this time. Mary, maybe you can go to the next slide to show them a little bit about, yes, the etape. So this is an example of the Tour de Yole of 2018, where you can see that it's a tour of the whole island. So usually they start in Fort-de-France or other central city, and then they move up and down. And you can imagine that every every each etape is like 3 or 4 hours, and they do that for 1 week. So it's these people are athletes. I won't say the least. It's very challenging sport, and yeah, it's one of the most popular in Martinique. The good stuff. Now we wanted to talk a little bit about food. So we are Caribbean people, right? So you would see in there that this food look like a lot of the food in other islands and mainly in Jamaica also, because that's where we're talking. On the top left corner, you can see matutu the crab, which is the traditional dish for Easter. So it's basically a curry crab, and the people eat that with rice, and yeah, it's that's the traditional Easter dish.
Yeah, and
Mary,
people take it to go to the beach
yes, yeah,
on Easter Sunday, Easter Monday. It's a very family
yeah,
oriented event. So you have these huge pots of matupu. So that's
hmm,
it's a kind of curry ish type of dish with crabs. And yeah, again, it's a lot of conviviality because yes, some people just take the whole thing, take it to the beach, and it's a vibe as well.
yeah, it's a real vibe. Yeah, they even do crab races,
Yes, they do.
which is really interesting. But the idea is basically that you take your crabs from at least 1 week before. You have them at your home, you feed them, you wash them, you take care of them. And for the Sunday of Easter, usually, well, you would do this dish. It takes a while to be prepared, um, but it's really good. I want to say a big up to my mom and dad because they would always do this for us, and my brother also loves this. The next food item that you see there on the right is accra de morue, which is basically fritters, codfish fritters, and it's the most popular snack, I would say. Yeah, when you have like any kind of celebration or stuff, people would also have accra. On the left, also the chocolate thing that you see is pain au beurre chocolat, which is actually my favorite dessert in the world. So it's basically a chocolate milk, and we eat it with some kind of buttery bread. Like it looks for what it's like a brioche. I don't know if there's English for it, but yeah, it's really a soft and really moist bread, and you actually put the bread in the chocolate, and then you eat the both, and it's absolutely delicious.
It is delicious. I really
Yeah.
love it, and I don't know anybody who does not love chocolates or chocolate. I don't think anybody in that I know would dare to tell me that they don't like it. I don't think it's a
Yeah, no,
thing.
and
And
the other Caribbean islands are jealous of us. The other French, I mean, Guadeloupe is so jealous that we
Uh,
have that, and they
yeah,
don't.
so
Yeah.
that's very very Martinican. I don't think it's something that is done anywhere else, and it's very actually interesting because we call it chocolat peur beurre, or we also call it chocolat première communion, and it becomes this name calls from the tradition of having the first communion, because Martinique is a very well, the population has a big Catholic tradition. And so part of the culture was for children, to do their first communion within the Catholic Church. And because they could not eat in the morning of this event, the parents, the mothers were preparing this very sweet and very comforting food for them, so that they could have it right after the mass of their first communion. And now it's just part of the things that you would see at a wedding, at a communion, christening, etc. Every one of those big family events. That is the last dish. That's what comes after the cake, and that's also
Yeah.
what comes when people are. Your hosts are ready to tell you very nicely that it's
Go
time to go
home.
home.
When they serve you this and you're done, you have to go home.
Yes, because
Yeah.
but it comes very late. It can come at 3, 4 in the morning. You would have time to have enjoyed yourself before that, but that is definitely the signal that you need to go home.
Right. And the last one is also one of the favorites of Martinicans. It's actually grilled conch. So I don't know if in Jamaica they do it like that. I have not seen it, but I know that in St. Lucia, in Guadeloupe, they love it also. We eat it with something called sauce creole, which is a sauce made of onions, garlic, scallions, pepper. It's delicious, and Martinicans really love to eat that. And fun fact is that we don't have much conch in our own waters, so most of it is actually imported from Jamaica. So it's really interesting also.
Right, right, and it's such a favorite. It's such a popular favorite that first of all it's fairly expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive. Yeah.
To buy conch. I was very happy when I was in Jamaica because it's not as expensive, so I could get a lot of conch during my time in Jamaica. And also, yes, we don't have much because people have been hunting it a lot. Actually, there is a season now, and
Yeah.
to be able to hunt conch, and it has been closed for quite some time now because we need to let the species reproduce, etc. Because Martinican people will really love this. So it's it's similar to how Martinican people also really love sea urchins. Now it was a very popular dish. It has been a very popular dish, but now it's so rare because the season lasts like maybe 2 weeks in the year.
Yeah.
Because people fish it a lot. So I really hope that conch is not going to become as rare in Martinique as sea urchin is.
Right. And one thing I miss really a lot is this sauce creole, which is a type of seasoning that we use on most grilled meats. It goes along with chicken, with pork, with beef, anything that you grill, you put that sauce creole on it, and it just makes it amazing.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I hope that our viewers are not too hungry after looking at this. But this is just one little snapshot of Martinican's dishes. Also, remember that it's a French Caribbean island, so you will also find a lot of French traditional stuff, namely the bread. People love eating their baguettes. You will also find a lot of wine, of cheese, all those, and the French pastries are very also popular back in Martinique. So you really have this Caribbean vibe with this French touch that makes
yeah,
the cuisine really interesting.
yeah, I really like how it's really a fusion between
Yeah,
Caribbean and French food. You have all these gratins. So gratin is a very French
right.
way to cook,
Mm-hmm.
potatoes and veggies. With a lot of cream, milk, and cheese, etc. And we took it and make it our own. So we do it with
Yeah.
plantain. We do it with banana. We can do it, with yam. I really like how we just, took it and made it our own, most definitely.
That's
Yes. So
great.
maybe we can move to the last
Great food.
section.
Right. So the last section, we wanted also to talk a little bit about famous Martinicans. I think the most famous one is hands down Aimé Césaire. Actually, the airport of Martinique is called by its name.
Everything in
So
Martinique is called after his name.
not Martinique, but the airport.
Yeah, but I was saying everything in
Yeah.
Martinique is
Oh yeah,
something
yeah.
after
That's true. You will find every streets everywhere,
the
in
schools
every
and
city.
yeah.
Yeah, is very, very, very popular back home. Because well, he played a major role in, first of all, in literature. So he was one of the founding members of the literature movement of Negritude within the Francophone world, which is a movement that, uh, well, I'm not an expert, but basically it's about the proudness of being black. So it was shared with African Francophone countries. It played a big role back then. But he's also very famous for his political role back in Martinique. He was mayor of the capital for the France for more than 40 years. And he was a French MP, very, very famous one because he was so brilliant that when he was speaking at the Assemblée Nationale, it is said that every other French MPs would just come to hear and listen to him speak because he had such a knowledge and mastery of the French language. I mean, if you read him, he has written a famous book called Cahiers d'un retour au pays natal. um, it's just beautiful. Even native French people have a hard time to understand his writing. I personally did, but he played a huge role politically because he was one of the people that fought for the recognition of Martinique, not just as a colony, but as a department of France. So we will speak a little bit about that when we go to the political and administrative overview of Martinique. But Aimé Césaire is definitely a major player in our international recognition, but also as Martinicans to be proud of who we are and to move forward. Mary, you wanted to add something?
I think no, I think you pretty much said everything.
All right.
He is now part, or he was thought to be part of the Panthéon, which is
Mm.
where all great men of France and women, of course, are buried.
Barbarian, yeah.
Right. So because his role for Martinique has definitely been recognized nationally, and I would say worldwide as well.
Right.
Um,
I think it's the
yeah.
most studied Martinican author.
I, yes,
Yeah.
I think it goes along with our second person, who is Frantz
Right.
Fanon, who is I'm pretty sure we're probably at the same level of studied Martinican across
Yeah.
the world. So I can say a few words on Frantz Fanon. So he was born in Martinique. He was a doctor in psychiatry. So that was the beginning of psychiatry as a science, and he has decided to engage politically with Algeria at the time when Algeria was a French colony and they wanted their independence. So he has left there, and he was part of the what they call the resistance in Algeria. And it's very interesting because what he saw in Algeria was very similar systems and mechanisms of colonialism that has been in Martinique, because they were both considered colonies, French colonies at the time. And he felt so close to this cause that he just decided and joined the fight for independence in Algeria. And
Yeah.
he has written a few very famous books. So I'm thinking of the ref of the earth, but I probably mispronounce it, les damnés de la terre, which
Yeah,
is actually
wretched.
it's second. Say that again.
I think it's wretched.
Yes, thank you.
Wretched, yeah.
This word, yes. Les damnés de la terre, which is his second book, but this first book is Peau Noire, Masque Blanc. And this one is very very famous. Actually, the first edition, the first publication of this book, the introduction, well, not the introduction, but the prologue was written by Jean-Paul Sartre, who is a very famous French philosopher, and he the whole ideas that Fanon developed are still very much studied in post-colonial studies worldwide, because he has he provided an understanding or an explanation of how violent colonization was or is, and different ways to get out of it, and he really has a whole theory on the impact of colonization of the colonized psyches, because again he was
Right.
a doctor in psychiatry. So I think his role was major, and I think a lot of people think so as well. And he died fairly young. I think he was sick, and I think he was in the United States at the time.
Yeah.
When he died.
As Mary said, he's also one of my favorite author. His book Peau Noire Masque Blanc it really goes deep inside the all colonial societies and the way colonialism was that as Bob Marley was saying in his songs, we have mental chains, like feeling black and not being proud of it, trying also the way that you speak, trying to speak like the colonizer. He goes deep into those aspects of our societies. And what strikes me the most is that he wrote this book in the 50s, and we are in 2021. And when I was reading that, I felt like it was the present. You know what I mean? So
It's so
it's
relevant. Yeah.
yeah, it's so
Yeah.
relevant also to our today's psyches. And I think everybody should really have a read of Frantz Fanon's work
Yeah, and
if
it's
you're
fairly
from
it's
the
fairly
Caribbean.
accessible. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
difficult to read. It's fairly
But it has
accessible,
been translated into
and
English.
it has been translated.
right.
Yeah, can
Yeah.
be read in English.
I
Right.
think in many languages, as Mary said, it's been studied by the whole post-colonial movement. So he's also a major author in that regard.
Yeah, and the last but not least, of course,
A
we need a
woman.
woman, of course. So this is Paulette Nardal. Um, so she is considered as being actually one of the precursor of the avant-garde of the negritude movement that we were just talking about. That Césaire and other authors developed after that, and she was really actually the one starting and to set these ideas. So actually, Césaire and Senghor and all those people that were involved in the negritude, they all met at the literary salons that Paulette
Hmm.
Nardal was hosting in
In
Paris.
Paris. Yeah.
Right. So she was a student. She left. She was actually the first Black woman to be a student of La Sorbonne, along with her sister. She went and studied English, and she just started to have this very vibrant cultural life with other Black people that she would have met in Paris. She would have met African authors, Caribbean authors, and she also was part of a Pan-Africanist movement, and that's how she created all those salons and where Césaire and other very influential authors met. And she's believed as not getting enough credit for what she has done in setting up and in setting the beginning, the premises of this current this movement. So we had to talk about her today. Nowadays we have more and more other authors who are trying to give her back her credits for everything that she has done. She's not as famous as Aimé Césaire. We don't have many schools, many airports with her name. But yeah, so we're really trying to get her to get the credits that she deserves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to move to the last section.
Yes. Yes. So on the last section, we wanted to also just let you know a little bit more about how Martinique works. So we are not an independent country, okay? Unlike many of our Caribbean neighbors, we are part of the French Republic. So we are within the French system of law. Everything French, every French law, everything, and also EU law applies to Martinique. But we also have some institutions locally that have the power of developing the country to a certain level, and this one is called Collectivité Territoriale de Martinique. So you can see the headquarter here. It is in Fort-de-France. So basically, we have one president of this collectivité, and he has like a little kind of government, and they are also elected representatives that meet every once in a month to discuss the state of the island and what we can do to move forward. So what you see there is also very interesting on the flags, because you can see the OACS flag, which is the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. And Martinique was the very first ever French um, authority to join an international organization within its own name. So, meaning that it's Martinique that has a seat at the OACS and not the French government. So, we became member of that institution back in 2015. And you can also see the ACS, Association of Caribbean States flag, because Martinique also became an observing member of this organization that is based in Trinidad and Tobago, and that has like the whole Caribbean in it. So so as you can see in these flags, we are both French, European, and you have that Caribbean also dimension of Martinique, which makes it a very interesting country in terms of how it's run and stuff like that. So I don't know if Mary, you wanted to add on this regard.
No, I think that's pretty complete. I just
Yeah.
wanted to add the information about the currency, because as you
Mhm.
said, the all the laws, including the EU laws, apply to Martinique.
Yeah.
So that
So
means
we
we
use
need the
euros.
currency, right? So we do
Yeah.
use euros.
We use euros. There is the French government is also, I mean, still responsible of most of the stuff happening in the island. There is an institution called Préfecture, that there you have a representative of the French government here, who also controls the police, the military, and all. I would say, I don't know the English for that, but the regalian powers of any states. And on the other side, you also have local institutions like the collectivité, who are able to also give a directions on where the island is getting into. So um, it's sometimes very complicated because, as you see, there are many levels of administration: EU, French, Martinique. It makes it very difficult for our Caribbean neighbors also to understand how things work in our framework. But for the last few years, there is really a push from the politicians back there to promote Caribbean cooperation, which for a long time was not happening at all. I mean, being a French country, most of our relations were within France and Guadeloupe and French Guyana, but Martinique is opening itself to its Caribbean neighbors more and more, and I can say that I'm very happy about that. There is still a lot more to be done. I think not only at the political level, but also for Martinicans to really embrace their Caribbean identity. But that's, I think, another topic.
That's a topic for another live.
Right.
Because it's a whole hour discussion that we need to have.
For that, you need to read Frantz Fanon to understand better, because there's a conflict of identity. Anyway, but if we have any questions, we are here to answer them.
There's quite a few questions, so I will
yes.
have to go through them as we move. But maybe the questions which I can see related to the topic right now. Jean Fairclough is asking, does the French government provide budgetary resources each year?
Oh yes, we are fed by French.
Not exactly. So, as you would have understood, there are different levels of administrative authorities. So yes, there is a part coming from the French government. Well, ish, because we're talking about those national competencies. So we have the French system is divided between what needs to be decided upon by locally and what is decided upon by nationally, right? So for the national level, of course, the French government would do their budgets for every department, right? The same thing applies whether we're in Martinique or in Ile-de-France, that's the department where Paris is located, or whichever other departments, right? Locally now, we do have some resources. We do have a lot of taxes. We pay a lot of taxes every year, specifically for the region, and those taxes go directly to the local government. So the local government is the one dealing with budget questions, using this income from the taxes that we do pay every year. So it's always at least two levels. And also, as I was mentioning, we also have the EU level. And again, the EU also has some responsibilities, and they are the one budgeting for those parts of their responsibilities. So we have those three levels of budgetary resources.
All right, which makes the standard of living, I would say, quite high in Martinique
compared
expensive to the other Caribbean island. I mean, we benefit from the social welfare system of France, but as Marie said, we are also contributing to that social system. So it's just fair that we also get some of that retribution. But basically we can get fundings from the EU, from the French government, and also locally. So yes, I hope this answers the question.
Definitely does.
Do we have any other questions?
Okay, is the presentation over now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't. Okay, all right. So yes, there's a few questions. All right, so I have to go back to the beginning to see the questions, because I can't remember. There were a few things. Elise and Dalak, who said she visited Saint-Pierre and Paris jail, and she stayed at the foot of the Mont Pelé. I didn't have the courage to go further.
Yeah, it's a huge hike, as we said. You really need to be ready to go for it. And I wouldn't advise doing that alone. You need to be with a group of people. And but the great thing about it, it's really well organized. Like you have your path, you're guided. You're not just thrown into the mountain. There's a path that you can follow to get to the summit.
Okay, we have Marvin Jackson who says "Trou cochon," the best.
It is.
Yeah, we know Marvin. He lived in Martinique for 1 year, so big up yourself.
Okay, we have Rodi Ann Thorpe who said that she attended she said, I attended my first carnival event in Martinique. Thank you for organizing this segment. I have to say it's good. I didn't think about the carnival, but I've seen that you put everything in this presentation.
Yeah.
I have to say your presentation was really, really good.
Thank you.
You covered everything. Let's see what they say. But for me, it was a brilliant presentation. And guys, I hadn't seen it. So I didn't. I mean, I always take risks when I go live because I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what they're going to say. But I think it had this little suspense as well. And I would say that your presentation was so good that Jean said, I want to visit Martinique as soon as the pandemic goes away.
We're waiting for you.
Yes, Jean. Jean, you're welcome anytime.
All right, Rodian says regarding food, chocolat, pain au beurre. Let me actually put it on the screen. The first local delicacy I had prior to going to Martinique, thanks to you, Marie-Noelle. So you know each other.
Yes, we do. And my pleasure, Rodi. I'm still waiting for you for our next chocolat pain au beurre. It's been ages now.
Okay, Jean is asking this question. Is there a Jamaican community in Martinique?
To the best of my knowledge, I don't think there is. There are Jamaican students who go there to study for a year, but I wouldn't say there is a community per se.
Okay.
And it's very interesting because at the same time, Martinicans love Jamaican culture. I mean, I grew up listening to reggae, to dancehall, to think about and dream about Jamaica in my old childhood. And I know many Martinicans are the same. But they don't even speak English, most of them. But yet they just love the music and the what Jamaica represents in the Caribbean is just amazing. The soft power of Jamaica, I think we could really say is the biggest in the Caribbean, hands down.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Jean added that the French does offer some freedom to its territory. I don't know if it was a question or a statement. I mean, the way it's put there is a statement. So do you agree with the statement?
I think there was some progress that was made because we were able to become part of the OECS and of the ACS, as Larry mentioned. I wouldn't say that it's an offer. I would say that was something that was carefully negotiated by our authorities and fought for. I didn't want to say it, but yes.
Yeah.
I would see it more as more of a negotiation initiated by our local authorities.
Right.
All right, Jean. So you got your answer there. Okay. Marvin is saying, do you prefer to be identified as French or Caribbean?
I think that's a very personal question. I
That's
don't
a
think
trick
you and I would
question,
speak.
Marvin.
Yeah, I don't think we would speak for the whole Martinican population because, as Larry was mentioning, there is definitely an identity crisis in Martinique, and I
Mm,
think each individual has their own way of seeing things. So, me personally, I would say that I prefer to be identified as a Caribbean because I have this sensitivity of what it means to be a Caribbean person. I've been traveling the Caribbean, so that's where I would tend to. But I don't think there is a one Martinican answer to this question. I think we're very far from that.
Mm.
French Caribbean. That's the answer. Or
French
Caribbean
Caribbean.
French. Yeah.
Okay, so Marvin, you got the answer. French Caribbean. Okay, Elise is asking, would Martinique become independent one day?
Oh, so
So,
many
do
more
you see it in
questions.
Oh.
your bowl, in your crystal ball?
There is, well, it's a very difficult question. We don't have 1 hour to answer it again. We would need it. Let's just say that some people are pushing for it, or at least they say that they are pushing for it. They would want to. Some others are not interested at all. But I wouldn't say that it's something that is very in the public debate right now.
Yeah.
What you hear about would be about getting more autonomy rather than getting independence. That's where the question is at the moment.
Yeah, at one part of our history, the political life was really divided between those who are for independence and those who want to stay within the French system. Um, but there were a few referendums that happened where people were actually, the Martinican population were questioned about whether they want more autonomy, or the question for independence was never asked to them, like in other um, French territories, such as I think it's New Caledonia, where they are asked if they want to be independent or not. But nowadays, people, as Mary said, they don't really envision independence practically. I mean, ideologically, you have a movement of people who really work for that, but independence is something that needs to be really thought about, and what are you going to be when you are independent. And sadly, most Martinicans view independence in the Caribbean within the framework of what happened in Haiti, and they say, oh, we don't want to be like that. So the question of independence right now is not really on the political agenda. It's mostly about getting more autonomy from the French, rather than being a full independent country. But it's a very sensitive topic, very sensitive. Namely, like something about the flag. I mentioned that when we were talking about the celebrations of the abolition of slavery. Martinique is a French territory, so the official flag is the French flag, right? Um, but when, for instance, we go in a football competition against Guadeloupe in the Caribbean, who is in the same framework as us, the official flag is also France. So you would see two French flags fighting each other, and that doesn't really make sense. So many people have been also fighting for the recognition of our own colors and our own flag. And if you Google Martinique flag, you would see like three of them. So there's a big confusion about that.
What do you
But
mean?
just
Three flags? You would
yes,
find three
because there
Yeah.
was
flags?
a flag. For instance, the Martinique emoji that you will find on our phones is a flag of four snakes and a blue and white frame. But this flag, no Martinican wants it anymore, because that was the
Okay.
flag that the slavery ships used to,
Oh, okay.
have. So by practice, it kind of became the flag of the island. but people never really recognize themselves with that flag. So
Okay.
the independence also movement proposed another flag, which is the red, uh, black, and green, that slowly became more and more accepted by most of the people that recognize this idea. And but it's not an official flag, you know. So there's that flag also issue that is, I think, deeply linked to that identity issue that we were
Mm.
also talking about just previously.
Okay. All right. I wondered whether or not there was a flag for the region. No, there isn't
There's
a
a
flag.
flag. There's a flag for the, remember, the collectivité
Okay.
territoriale, which is the institution, and the previous government of that institution also pushed for a new flag that was completely created from like
From
yeah
scratch with a competition.
right, within a competition. Martinicans were asked to send their flags ideas, and this flag was supposed to be used for sports and international events. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I said, yeah, you'll find many flags for Martinique, but at the end of the day, the only official flag remains the French flag.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Merci. We have another question from Diane or Diane Brown. What's the airfare from Jamaica to Martinique? I don't know if you know the airfare, but it would be good to let the viewers know how to get to Martinique from Jamaica,
Yeah, so
which is
the
not an easy
itinerary,
thing.
no,
That's
it's
a
not easy.
challenge. You must be ready for.
It's not
You have
easy.
yes,
So and COVID did not ease up things.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
the I think the well you have two main routes, two main itineraries, and you always have to have at least a stop somewhere. So it's either in Saint Martin, where you would have to overnight. It would be either in Barbados, depending if we have a flight between Martinique and Barbados, because it's not very regular. It's not all year long. Sometimes you can have a flight through Trinidad as well, or you can have a flight through Miami or Fort Lauderdale, depending on which flights to Martinique are available at the time. I think the ones that are the most reliable itinerary is through Saint Martin. Because there's always flight between Saint Martin and Martinique, and there are always flight between Jamaica and Saint Martin.
so
So of
basically
course
you
with
would
all these
go.
steps. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry,
No,
go
no,
ahead.
go ahead.
So what I would say is that you would leave Jamaica, Kingston. You would do Kingston, Saint Martin, and then move to from Saint Martin to Saint Martin
Right.
to get the flight to
To
Martinique with a
Guadeloupe
stop
and
Martinique,
then
Guadeloupe,
with a
and then
Martinique.
stop to
Martinique.
with a
Martinique. Yeah.
stop in
Right,
Guadeloupe
right.
because it's
Yeah,
not
but you stay
directly
you
in any
stay
place.
in the plane. It's the same
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
plane.
yeah, you stay in the
Um,
plane, but
yeah.
yeah, but you
But
have
you
to.
have to do an overnight in St. Martin. There's actually another route that is not as known, that I actually used when I went back to Martinique this summer. It's the Dominican Republic.
Right.
So you
Okay.
actually are able to do that within a day. So you don't have
Oh,
to do an overnight. It depends, obviously, because of COVID, but there are flights between Jamaica and DR. Um, but to answer the fair question, at least 1,000 US. I think it's very pricey.
Yeah. Yeah.
To
We're
go
talking
from
we're
there.
talking about a return ticket, right?
Yeah,
1,000.
flight
Mm.
to come back.
Right.
Um, and during COVID, obviously, everything is more complicated.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But I right now the route from Saint Martin is closed, so you have to go through
Oh, is it?
Dominican Republic.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see flights
Yeah,
uh,
between Jamaica and Saint Martin. Yeah.
between Jamaica and Saint
That's because
Martin.
of the pandemic, but we're getting
Right.
out of it eventually. So things will get easier eventually.
Yeah.
It is a good thing that I had organized a trip to Martinique when with students when I was in the secondary school
Mm.
in Kingston. and we did go via Saint Martin, and we had a lovely time in Martinique.
Yeah,
Yes, it
that's
was
nice.
really. Oh yes, it was really good, and it wasn't. I mean, it was pricey, but not as pricey as you mentioned now. But
Yeah, it's very
with
expensive.
COVID,
Mm.
yeah. Okay, I'm continuing with the questions. Thank you for this. Marvin is asking, is the Creole celebrated as a language, or is it discriminated against like the Jamaican patois? Okay, that is very good. That thanks for this question, Marvin, and both guests lived in Jamaica, so I hope that they will be able to answer that question.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, the first difference I would say between Creole in Martinique and the Jamaican patois is how used it is before talking about what authorities think about it. I think Jamaican use patois way more than Martinicans use
Definitely,
Creole,
yeah.
right?
Definitely.
So yeah, I don't think there are many Martinicans left who can say that Creole is their first language. I really think that for most people now, French is their first language, and I think a lot of people just don't use Creole much. They want to have a full conversation in Creole. Creole will always, just pop in a sentence at some point. The sentence will be same.
Yeah.
And we also have the other issue that because we getting to lose a bit of the Creole, so it's getting more and more French. So we would use a lot of French word in the Creole because we're losing a lot of them. And I could definitely that because I lived in Saint Lucia as well, and Saint Lucia and Martinique share the same Creole. It's pretty much the same Creole. It's French based. It's exactly the same thing. And when I was seeing Martinican people in Saint Lucia, but because Saint Lucia they speak English as the official language, they don't have this interference of French in their Creole. They have the interference of English in their
Yeah, they
Creole,
use English words.
right? But not that much. So
Right.
they don't get influenced by French in their Creole. And I could see that
Mm.
some people could not understand each other because I could hear that Martinican people were using a lot of French words in their Creole. They were trying to Creolize it a little bit, sorry, but it was definitely French. It was French words. So that's one thing. To answer your question, it's not as widely used in Creole. Is not as widely used in Martinique as patois is in Jamaica. So that's the first leg of this answer. Second leg of this answer is that there has been a movement to reinstate Creole, because much like in Jamaica in the 60s, the 50s, you had this thing that, people shouldn't speak Creole in schools. Schools had to be in French. All the institutions, all the administrations have to be in French, and Creole was really looked down upon. But after that, and I think from the 80s and from the early 2000s, there really has been a movement to try and reinstate Creole, and I think it coincides as well with other French regional languages because we have Creole in Martinique, but you have other regional languages in other regions or other parts in French, and now there is actually a degree that allows you to teach Creole. Some schools offer Creole as a second language. You can learn English and you can learn Spanish and you can learn Creole at school. I mean, at the primary level, sometimes at the secondary level, and
And
at
Cape
the
as well, the equivalent of Cape as well, or well, what we call
right, exactly,
baccalaureate.
exactly, and you can write the equivalent out as CAPE in Creole. It's an option, so it's an elective, but it's possible to do it as well. So I think there are these two things that need to be understood about the use of Creole and the fact that it's being reinstated. But this, despite the fact that it's being reinstated by authorities, it's not that mainly used in Martinique and Guadeloupe, I think.
Okay. To go back to what you said about St. Lucia, when I went to St. Lucia with my students, we went to the market, and obviously I spoke I think I spoke French because I was told that they could understand a bit of French, so I tried. And straight away, she told me that she couldn't speak French, but she said it in patois, in Creole. And in the end, I had to communicate with her in Creole. So it was very
Mm.
interesting because there were a lot of, as you said, French words, but she couldn't speak French. Yes, in Saint Lucia. All right,
Yeah.
let's see. Okay, Vinette is asking, when would be the best time to visit Martinique to avoid the rainy season? That is a good
Huh.
question because, when it's the rainy season, it's not really nice.
Yeah, the rainy season runs from like July
It's a
until
bit like here,
November.
isn't
It's
it?
a bit like in
Yeah,
Jamaica,
it's like in
yes.
Jamaica, so
Yes, I would advise the
anytime.
beginning of the year between February and April, May. It's really a
Yeah,
good time to come.
And February probably best. Like that, you
but
can
for
You
visit
can
the
carnival,
carnival.
or you can
you
come in
can
East for
go.
Easter. So yeah, Easter
Yeah,
is a nice time to come, I think.
Yeah, when
or
we
also
went
around
for
Christmas
Easter.
time is great. We didn't talk about that. We didn't have the time, but Christmas time is also a really interesting one. Obviously because of the food, but we have something called Chanter Noël, which
Mhm.
is
Carols,
before,
Christmas
yeah,
carols.
carols, yeah, people just gathering together singing Christmas songs. It's a lot like Parang in Trinidad. So it's a great vibe also. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, Vinette. So I don't know if you got your answer there, but because you have to do it as well when you're on holiday. So
Yeah.
and when you're on holidays, when there's the rainy season too, so it's not easy. Okay, another question here is: I learned that Martinique's economy is mainly agriculture based. What's the main crop grown for export there?
I wouldn't say that Martinique's economy is mainly agriculture based. I think right now it probably used to be, but I think right now what is really the biggest part of the economy is services.
Yeah, so yeah, yeah,
Services.
it's not agriculture, but
Right.
our main crops is banana to
Yeah.
for exports to the
Yeah. And
European
a little
market.
bit of sugar cane.
Yeah, sugarcane. Um, yeah, basically those raw products, but I don't want to show off there, but I have to talk about that because it's part of Martinican's culture and pride. Our rum is also one of the best in the world. So
Everybody says that.
no, this is recognized by the international awards. So yeah, we produce sugarcane, but also rum to be exported. And this is actually something that people are also pushing for. Is moving from an agriculture of just producing these raw materials that are not as competitive as, for instance, banana produced in Africa. It will be much cheaper than the one in Martinique, because of the cost of labor and the fact that we're also in a small island, so we cannot have huge fields of crops. So we are trying also, the local government is trying to push also for people to have their own, what we call jardin créole, which is by your house, having your little garden where you actually have your own crops, of like roots, vegetables, stuff that can actually feed you, unlike banana and sugarcane. So this is also a big challenge of the Martinican's economy because we actually have to import most of
Mm,
what we eat,
yeah.
and this is not good.
Hmm.
This is not good. But yeah, many people now are also like pushing for this local production movement. and trying to be more independent when it comes to how we feed ourselves.
Yeah, we're trying to reach food sovereignty.
Yeah. And also we're talking about agriculture, but also we had a big health scandal when it comes to agriculture, because of the banana crops. They used very harmful pesticide, and this polluted the soils, the rivers, the waters. So the
Oh.
agriculture topic is also very sensitive, back in Martinique, because of that um, health issue with that pesticide.
Mm.
So there are
Okay. Thank
certain crops that we're not supposed to grow on these lands that are contaminated by
mm.
this.
Okay. All right. Ashanti Jordan says, do students take CSEC and CAPE, or is it a French exam as the one in France?
The school system is definitely a French one. So,
Yes,
as we said,
exactly
We
the
don't
we're definitely
know
same.
part of.
nothing about CSEC or CAPE.
No, we're definitely part of France, even about on the education. So the equivalent
Yeah.
of CSEC is will be the brevet de collège. So that's what you get in at the end of what junior high school, and the equivalent of CAPE
Do they
would
still
be
continue with
exactly
that?
the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it still exists.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because
And
I
yeah,
remember that it was optional in my time. It was optional. Is you want
no,
to do it? Okay, you do it.
no,
I
it's
took
very
it,
much.
but it wasn't. I mean,
Yeah,
It's
I
very much
mean,
mandatory. Yeah.
we do it, but it doesn't have the importance of CSEC
yeah.
Right.
Oh,
for
yeah,
our
yeah. That's right. I
Caribbean.
mean, whether you
What
have
is
it or
really
not.
important for us is the baccalaureate,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
um,
yeah,
Which
where
would be the
this
equivalent of
really,
CAPE.
right, which really ends like your, I mean, school life going
Secondary
into
school.
university.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So most French people need to have their bac to go to higher education,
yeah. I always
university.
say the back is the passport to university.
Right, it
Yes,
is.
yes,
It
So,
yeah.
is. Yeah. But because everybody has it, well, most people has it.
now you can't say
At one,
everybody has it.
no, not
Wow.
everybody, but it used to be much more harder than what it is now. So you actually have to push also your studying longer.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know.
All right. Uh, Marvin, I mean, I'm reading because I don't know what they're saying. So let's see. I think post COVID, we need to consider high school exchanges between Jamaica and Martinique. I met many students from the Lycée Shellshare who wanted to visit Jamaica. And I know that when I was in Martinique, when we said that we're from Jamaica, it was like, wow, and I had to
That's
be
what I
careful.
said. Like
I
people
had to
love
be
Jamaicans.
careful because I was with girls, and the guys, when they heard the English, I said, "Girl, don't go anywhere," because I was responsible for them.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, actually,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, my current position now is I work as a project manager on a project that aims at encouraging and supporting this type of students' mobility. So we haven't been able to do it with between Jamaica and Martinique as yet, mostly because of COVID, as Marvin has said. But that's definitely something that is on the map. That's something that we're considering now, and we're just waiting for things to get a little bit better to be able to organize this. But this is definitely something under our radar, and that the authorities, indication authorities in Martinique are really looking very closely to.
Okay. All right. So Elise Dalla is saying JAFT. So for those who don't know what JAFT is, it's Jamaica Association of French Teachers used to arrange student exchanges. However, it became increasingly difficult to continue because, of course, of airfare, as it becomes expensive, visa issues, stopovers, and no direct flight. Yes, yes, I can well imagine. It's really very difficult. Um, and also to be able to convince parents, because it's the parents who will be paying, how do you say to parents, okay, give us this amount of money and we'll, get your child to travel to Martinique? It's not an easy task, I must say. So yes.
Yeah, I completely agree with Elise on this one.
Yes.
But now that we are in this COVID era, also we can think of digital exchanges, cyber twinnings between schools in Jamaica and schools in Martinique. I think now everybody's used to that way of communicating with each other. So it's definitely something that we can work on.
Yeah. But you have to agree, it's not the same though.
It's never the same. Never
Okay,
the same.
so okay, I'm reading. Jean is saying, merci, French Action, Marie and Larry. Very useful and interesting presentation. I second that. Okay.
You're most
Merci,
welcome,
Jean.
Jean. Yes,
The
our
same
pleasure.
with Vinette. Yes. She agrees and she said thanks. Not sure what that.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
the
side that we were
pesticide I
talking
was
about.
talking about.
Okay, all right, okay.
It's called the
Okay.
chlordicon. Yeah.
Sorry, Marvin, it came like a cheveux sur la soupe to me. Okay. And Elise, referring to that, actually says that it's supposed to be barred in agriculture production.
Yeah,
But of course,
it's
it's
been
not yet.
banned.
So,
Yeah, it's been banned. It just took a little time to be banned, but it's been banned since the 90s actually. But the problem is that the soils are still polluted, and that it will be polluted
Yeah.
most
It's a
likely for the next
very
5 centuries or so on.
Yeah, it's a persistent one. So it
Mm-mm.
sticks into the soils for like 500 years.
Yeah,
And as Mary said, it was banned everywhere in the world, but somehow the plantation and owners and they got some ways to still continue using it. So that's why it's also a big scandal, because what happens is that we find out that Martinique is the country in the world with the highest prostate cancer, and there are
oh,
links with that pesticide and this cancer and other health issues that are really problematic. And it's not just agriculture. I mean, we're talking about pollution also of the sea, the rivers. So even the fish that you eat are contaminated. If you have a cow eating grass on a
mm,
contaminated field, the cow
yeah.
will also be contaminated. So
So it
it's a
goes,
huge,
yeah,
yeah, it's a
yeah,
chain
vicious
that,
circle. Yeah.
yeah. So you can only have safe agriculture in like specific parts of the island, and we are a small island, so it makes it really really challenging to reach for that food um, sustainability.
Okay. Thank you, Muriel Lamartinière. Must be related to you, Larry.
I think so.
She said,
That's the name,
merci.
I know.
Good vibes.
Yeah.
So thank you for your good vibes. But before we go, I have three questions. They're all different questions which I took as you were talking. The first one related to the Yole. Do you know if Yole has a particular meaning? I'm just surprised to.
I don't think
You
so.
may not know. If you don't know, it's not a problem. I'm just
Yeah, I
asking.
don't know.
Yeah,
I
I don't
don't
know.
know.
I think it's likely that it comes from the Caribs,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they were the
yeah,
Okay.
ones who invented the system. But I don't know what it means.
yeah. This type of boat was Carib tradition. So
Mm-mm.
I think
Okay.
it's the word comes from them.
Yeah, because just the word "yol" it sounds, a bit.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
exotic. Uh,
Okay. The second one is tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it's in Martinique. There's the national dish is a dish where which you eat with your hand and it's on the table or something like that. Am I right?
Oh, trompage.
Yeah. So
Trompage. I couldn't
yeah.
remember. Yes.
Yeah.
So we don't really have an official national dish.
Oh, okay.
So because I don't know, it doesn't work like that for us. We don't have a national dish in Martinique.
Yeah, we don't have one.
Yeah, and trompage is definitely a tradition. So it's on a very long table. You would have banana tree leaves on the table, and then you will have a mix of, I think it's bread, wet bread with sauce and meat and all type of things, and everybody has to eat in their own separate areas because they eat with their hands and they want to make sure that nobody is mixing with what the other dish is eating. But it's this very long table where everybody eats with their hands at the same table.
So I remember something like that, but
you don't go put your hands on somebody else's food, but you have your little section of the table where you pick up the hand with the food with your hand and you eat it like that. I think it must come from Carib tradition, but I'm not sure. Also, we have Indian immigration in Martinique, and I know that in India it's also very common to eat with your hands. So I think it's a mix of those influences.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It was interesting.
I personally never had that. I wouldn't call it national dish because it's very rare. It's not something done.
Yeah, it's very
I think that's what I was told at the time. It was a long time ago. But,
no, I think it's very traditional, but it's not something that you see very often.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I tried it once. I was not so convinced.
Me neither.
So we have much better stuff. Go eat a pain au beurre au chocolat. You won't.
Yeah. Okay, I have another question, but since I can see the chat going, so I don't want to lose sight of it. Marvin is saying this was awesome. Thanks to the guest for such a wonderful presentation. You see?
Yeah, you're most welcome, Marvin. Thank you very much for your very nice words.
Okay, Samantha is asking, is the Tour de Yoles Martinique's version of the Tour de France? Actually, when you said it, I thought of the Tour de France.
No.
In terms of popularity, I think so. Yes, it's very popular. But we do also have a bicycle tour.
Tour de Martinique. Yeah.
True.
But it's not as popular. Whereas in Guadeloupe, actually, the bicycle tour is the one that's very popular.
Yeah, the most popular one.
Yeah. But in Martinique, it's not that popular. But they were. Yeah, in terms of popularity, it could be the version.
Well, I think it's because you have the Yole. There's no Yole in Guadeloupe, so
yes.
Yeah, they are jealous of that.
I guess.
Stop saying that, Irene. we trying to promote Caribbean friendship.
Yeah. But as Marie said, cycling is also, because of this French influence, is a very popular sport in the French Caribbean. In Guadeloupe more than in Martinique, but it's very popular in Martinique also. You would see a lot of people cycling on the roads as you drive. You have spaces dedicated to them. So it's a very popular sport in the French Caribbean indeed.
Mm-hmm. And then Elise said in relation to what we are talking now that it was a topic explored by students at the Cape level unit 2. So you see, we talk about your country.
Yay!
So that's really good. Okay, that's all I see in the chat. So I'm going to go for my last question. In education, when we talk about when we talk about Guadeloupe, Martinique, French Guiana, teachers would mention the dom-tom. Okay. Now that Martinique is a collectivity, should we move from the dom-tom? What's your view on that? How should teachers address this issue when they teach it at school, for example?
I think the newest word for these regions are DROM-COM. So for département, région d'outre-mer, and collectivité d'outre-mer.
Yeah, I'm putting it in the chat for people so that they can see that.
DROM-COM.
Okay, so guys, if there's any
but you can basically say
dom-tom.
outre-mer. You can say outre-mer, and that's it. We depend on, the French government as ministries, and our ministry is called Ministère de l'Outre-mer. So this includes every really overseas territories of France. So Outre-mer is I think the simplest way of talking about them. At one point, they were talking about Archipel de France. That was a political new way of saying of talking about these places. But Outre-mer remains, I think, the most common one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's better to talk about DROM-COM.
Yes, or les Outre-mer.
Yeah. Les Outre-mer is.
Yeah. And they also have ultramarin.
Yeah, ultramarin. The people living in les Outre-mer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Because we are ultra compared to French people. We are very far from the motherland.
Okay, Elise is saying where there are Arawaks and Caribs living in Martinique before the arrival of Christopher Columbus.
Yes,
they were. And you have some places in Martinique where you have like some remains of their presence. So yeah, for the fun fact, the Carib name of Martinique is Madinina.
Oh yeah, true.
So yeah, we never talked about that. Yes. So that was the name that the Carib gave to the island.
Madinina, right?
Madinina. Yeah, Madinina. So you will hear that a lot also when people are referring to Martinique. Like they say, I'm from Madinina. Our football team is called Matinino. And stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the nickname is Madinina. It means Île aux Fleurs. Well, that's what I was taught, but I'm not sure if it's accurate. But the other nickname of Martinique is L'Île aux Fleurs.
Okay, the flower
island. Yeah.
Island. Right. Okay. I have to say, you didn't mention anything about flowers and fauna, but I guess it's probably the same as all the Caribbean islands.
Yeah, it's very similar.
The only thing is that you don't have the ackee. Now talking about food.
No.
Well, we do have ackee tree. We don't eat it, but
you have ackee tree in Martinique.
It's I've seen some. It's not something that people have usually in the backyard because they don't eat ackee, but I've seen a few in country. Yeah. The one thing that we have that I'm very happy about. No, I'm not. Is we have an endemic snake in Martinique, which is called the trigonocephale. Because its head is shaped like a triangle. And it's actually a fairly dangerous snake. So you wouldn't want it to bite you.
Yeah, you remember I talked about the flag that was used.
Yeah, you talked about the flag.
Yeah, so this is because of that snake. They put the snakes on the flag.
But does that mean that you have a lot of snakes there?
No, we
Not a
don't.
lot.
No, we
No, and
don't. It's not, no.
you barely hear about anybody being attacked by them
No,
also. But
no.
you just have to be careful when you're doing hikes and stuff like that. Be
When you're in
aware
the
that,
bush, yes.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
that
you be careful.
there is a snake problem. Well, unlike many other Caribbean islands, we do have this very venomous snake, and but people don't die from it. From my well, you could die, but there are antidotes to be given to you in like 4 hours.
Okay. Well, I have to
Yeah.
say, you know a lot about your country, and that is very, very good. Because we are born in a country. We are born in a country. We live there, and sometimes you ask questions, and people don't necessarily know. So I have to say, I really enjoyed this presentation. You covered everything. I just missed a little bit the map because I wanted to see where. For example, when you talk about Tombolo, which I
Right,
knew
right.
nothing
Right.
about,
Yeah.
I wanted to know where Tombolo was in relation to, for example, Montagne Pelée, because I've been to La
Mm-hmm.
Montagne Pelée.
Right.
But in my head, I just see the map of Martinique, but I have no idea where the
Where to
airport
put what?
is.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I mean, we have a map. When I showed the Tour de Yole,
Yeah, is it possible
uh,
for you to put it back for
yes,
for us
Mary, could
very
you?
quickly so that
Yeah,
we can
the
see if we
presentation is
can.
still on. So if you want
So I have okay.
to show
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yes.
Ah,
Right, so
Right
where
yes,
is
so
it?
you can
here.
see the cursor. So La Montagne Pelée is here. You can see it on
Where?
the
I can't. Even with
right.
my glasses, I can't. Where
Oh,
about?
it's by the number 2 where it's
Number two.
written the
Okay.
picture. I don't know if you can see my cursor.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Right, that's right there. So
Okay.
here
What I
you
wanted
have
to see is where is the airport when we arrive? Where are we when we
it's
land
pretty
in
much
Martinique?
here.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
Center of the island
yeah,
near
okay,
La Montagne,
yeah. So
okay,
which is where the capital city is for the France.
okay.
That's the
Mhm.
capital of Martinique.
so the tombolo will be here on that side.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
This is Sainte Marie. Le Rocher du Diamant
Would be
would
where?
be here, around
When you
here.
say
But
here, I don't
you,
see
you
your.
don't see the cursor?
No, I don't see it
It's by the
now.
number 4.
Number. Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. Right south. Ah,
Right.
okay. All right. Okay.
And Trou Cochon would be right here by the letter P, around here.
Yeah,
Okay.
Vauclin.
So it's a little bit all over the place. Yeah.
Yes, yes. It's
Okay.
just
Yeah, we
basically
tried to
all of
show.
Martinique. Yeah.
And
And tell
the
me,
famous beach that the Saline that she showed
I was
you
just, you
is
just took
as
it
the,
from me.
yeah,
Yes, I was.
extreme south. Like
Right.
All
this
right.
little
Because
leg,
I've
this
heard of
little
that as
leg
well.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Saint-Anne. It's called Saint-Anne.
So do they
And
do anything with the salt or no?
yes, yes, there is a salt. Like there are salt waters around there, and they collect the salt also. It's
Mm-hmm.
saline. And the fun fact is that from south of Martinique, you can see Saint Lucia, in the background.
True, true.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same
it's
thing for the
that
north.
close.
Yeah, when you go up north, you can see the
Yeah,
water because
yeah.
Lausanne is also cool.
So people would take a boat from, you see this spot Marin south. They take a boat from there to Saint Lucia, and in 1 hour
Mm-hmm.
you are in Saint Lucia.
This is what we did actually.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we
Oh,
did
that's
with
great.
I did with the students. Yeah. We took the ferry.
Yeah,
Um
the ferry.
yeah, yeah. Uh I wanted to ask you something else. Oh, I can't even remember now. Yes, just for the Jamaicans so that they understand in terms of population, because there's a big difference in terms of population. The population of Jamaica is nearly 3 million. uh, can you tell us the population of Martinique?
Yeah, the Martinique is 400,000.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
you will
that
understand
people
that.
can have can see
Right,
the
the idea.
difference. Okay, an
Yeah.
idea. Okay, and do you know how many times would Martinique be in terms of the country of Jamaica, for example?
Its
About 10 times?
size wise.
Yeah, about
I
10
know
times
it's
maybe.
1,100 square meters. So I would
Oh, I can't answer that.
say four times, something like that.
Oh no, I think it would be more than 4 times.
I'm
Um,
sorry,
Okay.
I can't help you on this. I have no idea.
no, I think it would be more than 4 times, I think.
It's Martinique is small compared to Jamaica. That's
Oh
That's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Okay, I'm just reading other messages. Ellie saying thanks so much to the two of you. This was an excellent presentation. All right. And Martinique has been used as part of the reading and listening comprehension in the CSEC exam. Did you know that?
I never knew that, and I am happy to know.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
great news.
Yes. And Ashanti says, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. I learned a lot, and hopefully we focus more on Martinique this year for Cape. Wow.
Yes.
Let's be hopeful. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's very, very good. Very good. Well, guys, that's it for us for today. I have to say a big thank you to the two of you, okay, because I didn't want to do the presentation because for me, I'm not Martinican and I knew a few things, but the way you said it, the way you presented it is nowhere. I wouldn't have been able to do a better job than you. So that's why I asked you to do it. And also because you speak English very well. So for our audience, especially for our students, because this is really for the students, so that when they have projects, sometimes they have projects to do, they can, at least the presentation can provide them with some prompts for certain aspects of the country they have to talk about. And well, obviously it will be in English, but the point is they have an idea. And also when you have photos and photos that you shared with us, I mean, what else can I can't ask for more than that. I can't ask for more than that. So I wanted to say a big thank you to the two of you, and also thank you to our viewers. And if you really enjoy the presentation, you have to like it, so that we have so many likes that YouTube recognize that this is a good presentation. The reality is that if there's no likes, if there's no comments, no engagement, YouTube is thinking it wasn't good. And then the video doesn't get pushed. And I do believe that this video should be pushed because the presentation was excellent. It has to be pushed. And I want to see a lot of likes, and comments.
Like, comment, subscribe, all that.
Well, thank you very much for having us. It was really a pleasure to have this discussion with you and with your viewers as well. We do hope that we were able to clarify a few things about Martinique.
I'm
So
sure
yeah,
you did.
it was a pleasure, really a pleasure.
Merci, Marie-Noelle.
Yes, and for me to finish, thank you, Milen, for having us, and thank you, Mary. It's always also a pleasure to have you talk about how island. I think that presentation really tells you that we love Martinique, we love our little country,
Oh,
and
yes,
it's always great to
definitely.
share with the world, and especially with our Jamaican brothers and sisters about our little island, which is sadly not known much. But I hope that this presentation gave a few of you ideas of traveling to Martinique and experience this great, great country.
Yeah. And that was really the aim. And as I explained earlier, for those who joined a bit later, uh, it's the type of live which I'm going to continue by asking people to present their countries That is very important because we need to remember that France is not just where French is spoken. So by having people from other French-speaking countries presenting their own country, or if they were not born there, but probably they live there and then or they know enough to talk about it, then that's what I will do. I've already got some people lined up, but as I explained, because they live well, they don't live in the Caribbean, so with the time difference and so on, it's not always easy. But we will continue. We'll try to do as much as we can, and that's what French is all about. And I do say French action, and that's what it is, action. All right. So it's not just pure words. Words, I say it, but I act. Okay. All right. So on this, sur ce, merci beaucoup à vous deux. Et puis, à très bientôt.
Merci. À très bientôt.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
À bientôt.
Okay. And thank you very much for watching. Au revoir.
Ciao.
Ciao.